Jeffrey Byard, Healing Shame. Interesting topic today. Let's say you're at the store and some dude dressed like this comes up and he cuts in front of you in the line. It's a long line, everybody's waiting. And this dude just kind of creeps up in there and he just steps right in front of you or a couple of people ahead of you. And he looks back at you like this, or he doesn't look back at all, like nobody knows what he just did. Okay. This is obviously a flagrant violation of boundaries. And this is somebody who has just disrespected not only you, but everybody else behind him. All right. This is one of those situations that's kind of easy, right? We know what we can do in this type of circumstance. All we need to do is inform this person without picking a fight, without engaging in battle or conflict. We know we can let this person recognize, and they already know they did wrong. We have to call them out on it. Hey, excuse me, sir. Everybody else is waiting. The back of the line is there. So you might want to go to the back because you just cut in front of everybody. Usually, unless a person is really combative, they're probably going to oblige because you got a bunch of other people behind him, looking at him too, like they wanted to say what you just said. And he's probably, he or she, whatever. They don't have to look like this. It could be any type of person, just an exaggeration. So they're probably going to comply, more than likely, or they could just ignore. Um, but this is an easy one. This is an easy one to see. This is a clearly crossing a boundary, and we know what the next indicated action is. But today is June 22nd. Let's get into the reading, and we'll talk more about this topic today. Here's the reading. From Strengthening My Recovery, June 22nd. Tolerating the unacceptable. We will see how our low self esteem has us judging ourselves mercilessly, giving others the benefit of the doubt, and tolerating inappropriate behavior. Big Red Book, Roman numeral, page XXI or 21. Many of us were taught that it was virtuous to put up with whatever was doled out, shut up about whatever was going on, and deny our feelings in the process. This led us to doubt our own perceptions, which led us to doubt our own self worth. Because we actually survived, some of us interpreted our ability to deal with unacceptable situations as resilience. Unfortunately, we didn't learn that it was acceptable to set boundaries and limits, and that it was okay to say no to unacceptable behavior. This is what we learn in ACA. We don't have to be stoic or pretend that things don't bother us when they do. We don't have to apologize for stuff that's not ours or feel ashamed when we feel triggered. We have the right to our reality, our experiences, and our feelings. With the help of our recovery support system, we are now learning to trust, to feel, and to talk. This is a wonderful way to live. We can surround ourselves with people who listen to us and acknowledge our feelings. We can be more human, vulnerable, and safe. Here's our mantra. On this day, I remind myself that being resilient, tolerating abuse, is not the way I want to live my life. I can relax and trust safe people. Copyright 2013 by Adult Children of Alcoholics and Dysfunctional Families, World Service Organization. This is a great topic. Okay, now it's very sensitive. It's very complicated sometimes. There's a little song and dance you have to do, a balancing act. Now, the beginning in the intro, that person was in clear violation of everybody else around him. And so we knew that, hey, this is unacceptable. This is crossing a boundary, not only with me, but everybody else. And so we have a choice. We can stand up for ourselves and let them know, hey, this is unacceptable. I don't like it. So please correct your action and fix yourself. Or we can let it go. Sometimes you have to learn a balancing act. When do you pick your battles? Pick your battles. And if you're in any other recovery program like AA or whatever it might be, in those programs, we're kind of taught to, and it doesn't say it exactly, but we're almost taught to let a lot of things go. That's how I was introduced to AA. You pray for the person, they're sick people, and you let a lot of things go. Now, it also says in there we're not doormats, and we don't crawl before anybody. We don't let people step on us. So it doesn't really give any way to deal with conflict in AA. The big book doesn't have any real. It says we avoid retaliation and argument in that book, but ACA is where we're really bringing this stuff out to the open and recognizing, hey, we can't bottle our anger up. Our anger is normal and healthy, and we feel that because our body is telling us this is not right. So our feelings, we learn to trust our feelings in ACA, not so much in AA, at least not from the literature I've read. And I know, and Bill W. recognized that as well. This is just a beginning. We got to go further and branch out into other areas that we're going to open us up to our emotional sobriety and dealing with things like this. Like I said, it's a balancing act. Okay, so when you're dealing with, like, let's say the public, and you're out and about, and you're in a place like China. I'm in China right now. You can't go up all the time. You could, but you're gonna get tired, and you're gonna eventually just wind up possibly in worse situations. If you have to go up and you have to correct every time somebody cuts in line, that's gonna be a lot because there's a ton of people in here, and people just don't queue all the time quite properly. So it's improving and depends on what city you're in. I'm in Shenzhen. There's a little bit more manners here, but I've been in places like Chengdu, China, where there's just no queue at all. Now it's been years since I've been in Chengdu. Maybe it's gotten better, but when I was there before COVID, it was a cluster fuck, and there was no line, to get into the building, or people would push and shove and cut in front of you, and old people, so you're confronting old, hey, excuse me, in Chinese, get to the back of the line. Man, this stuff doesn't always work. In reality, in theory, it's great. In the USA, places in the West, this is a little easier to practice. But in places like, I guess, India, China, this is going to be a little tougher to do in parts of those countries. All right, now that's one aspect of this: setting boundaries, standing up for yourself, not accepting the intolerable. And as adult children, we're scared of conflict. I know I am. I'm terrified of angry people. It's one of the survival traits. I have to get past that. I have to get over that by practicing this and learning where I have the right to stand up for myself and say, hey, I don't like what you did. That hurts my feelings, or that makes me angry. You're doing wrong. Please correct it. It's not right. We have the right to our reality. That is completely okay to say to people. We don't have to let them walk on us. Not anymore. We're not kids. We are grown adults. We are allowed to stand up for ourselves. That's with the public. Now, what happens when you're in a relationship? Now, things are going to get a little trickier because now you're with somebody that you don't want them to abandon you. You're afraid to say sometimes what you really think, even if it hurts your feelings. For me, I bottle things up inside and I don't say them right away. It takes me time to process. I let some comments slide a lot of times because I give people the benefit of the doubt, especially in romantic relationships with women. I let them slide. I give them the benefit of the doubt. They may say something that actually does trigger me. And I'm like, oh, I shouldn't be getting triggered. I'm a little ashamed of that. And then couple that with the AA song and dance. Oh, I got to see my part in this. So I should, like, not say anything and then just, do a 10-step inventory on it and keep it to myself. No, that's not necessarily what AA says, but that's how it feels. The program comes across. At least that's how I interpreted it. And my sponsors and stuff kind of led me through some of the step work and 10 steps and stuff like that. That's not right. And that's not going to work anymore. We have to take ACA for what it is and apply these principles to these relationship situations. And this is why they say, wait some time, don't jump into relationships, make sure, blah, 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 this and that's in place before we do. But what we can do in situations like this is, I've been practicing this with my current relationship. There have been comments made that actually triggered me, and I waited And then I talked to her again, and that feeling was coming up, and I was feeling disconnected from her, like I was repressing what I really felt. And then I'd hang up the phone or end the video chat, and then I'd call again, and I was still a little disconnected because that was still bothering me what she had said before. It was a joke she made, and it was just her sense of humor, like, "Oh, I'm going on a date," and the date was actually with some of her friends that were girls, but it was said in a way that was a little kind of teasing or meant to be a little joking, and it triggered me, and I didn't like that. She said, "I'm going on a date." I was like, "A date?" You know? So that triggered me, and I tried to repress it, and I tried to ignore it and let that slide, but actually later it came out, and I told her about it, and she was okay with it. So, it's perfectly fine to confront people in a good way and let them know, "Hey, this is a boundary. I didn't like that joke. It's not funny, and it triggered me. And would you please refrain from doing that?" And if the person is working on themselves, they're probably going to comply and they're going to work with you. There are other things that can be said too, like um, your feet are small, or part about your hands, your feet, or whatever. If it triggers you guys, say something about it. There are ways to actually. We have to learn how to engage in healthy conflict. In ACA, as adult children, we don't know how to engage in healthy conflict. It is okay to stand up for yourself and say, "Hey, that triggers me. I was body shamed as a kid, and when you tell me my feet are small or whatever, it makes me feel um, feminine, and I don't want to feel feminine. Nothing wrong with being feminine, but as a man, that triggers me, and I don't like it. So please don't comment and make a comment about my slender feet, or they're small, or make me feel uncomfortable like that." And that's standing up for ourselves. That's setting a boundary. This is in intimate relationships, and then when it gets even trickier, is dealing with our family of origin. Oh, right. I've set boundaries with my mother, and when I set boundaries with her, this is a person who can really hurt me and know how to press my buttons. So if I set a boundary with my mom and say, "Hey, stop shaming me. I don't like the way you're talking to me now. Please treat me with respect." I've had her say, "Get out now or I'm going to call the police." And all I was doing was setting boundaries with her. Same with my father. I show a little sign of anger with him. Boy, he's yelling and he's got to be angrier. He's got to intimidate you, slam stuff around. Get out now. I'm going to call the cops. This is the kind of stuff these people do. These are sick people. So I do have to have tolerance with them. I don't have to tolerate the unacceptable, but I have to have some patience. Recognize that they can't accept certain things. They can't deal with it. So I have to have some patience, pity, and tolerance. So that's that balancing act I talked about. We've got to have some patience and see our part in things, but we also have to learn how to stand up for ourselves. And we have to pick our battles. Pick your battles, guys. That's all I can say about the topic today. It's a great topic. I wish you all the best and good luck in approaching this. Pray to your higher power a lot, and ask for opportunities where you get to set boundaries and enforce them. Not only do we set boundaries, we have to learn to enforce the boundaries because our boundaries were always crossed as kids, or we had none at all. So this is great practice. And until next time, we'll see you.